Call the meeting to order. Jim, would you deliver the invocation?
Sure. Father, thank you for the blessings of the day. Give us wisdom to make good decisions, to help the citizens of Jasper, and give us the wisdom to work with each other in a wise way. Amen.
Amen. Tony, pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council has a copy of the agenda. Would entertain a motion. Got a motion by John Fowles to approve the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion by Sonny Proctor to approve it. If that's a second. Any discussion? Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands. Thank you. Let it be known that this is a called council meeting for special purposes. Those purposes will be specific to the agenda. And also let it be known we have two council members not with us because I believe the excuses were the time of day. But it's also the time of day is why we're doing it, because we have Halloween and a few other things, and of course it's business that is pressing. So therefore we're having the call council meeting on October the 31st at 4 o'clock, 2018. Under old business, we have none. Under new business, item A, I'm going to recognize both Sonny and Jim. I believe maybe a dual effort. Request to change zoning for parcel 053D 079022 from C2 to general commercial to RA residential agricultural. Sonny, Jim?
Just to, is this the first one? To remind council, at the regular scheduled meeting this month, I asked that we table these items. We found a procedural error. There should have been an action from the Planning Commission to be brought to council to first change the zoning on these properties from commercial to RA, to RA or residential agriculture, and then it can be approved for a PUD. That was a part of the ordinance that I'll take responsibility for. It should have been noticed and wasn't. So, Planning Commission met last night, approved the partials that are on the agenda, both 053D 79002 and 04212 approved them to be zoned as RA, change the zoning from commercial to RA, and also be approved for PUD. So this is a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning.
Hello.
Hello, Neil.
In an effort to fully understand for the general public of what we're doing, and you may have clarified it, it looked like kind of muddy water to me, but a few years ago we codified all of our ordinances, and zoning was very simple in the early days. It was either R1, which is single family dwelling, R3, multifamily, and commercial or industrial. With the input of Unicodes, they have made something very difficult out of something that one time was very simple. And a lot of it without a lot of discussion and understanding from the council at that particular time. But during this, we've tried to get the term planned unit development into our zoning, because in the days past, we would just simply call it a planned unit development. And we had several developers at the time try to bring property into the city as planned unit developments. But with that, there was a footnote, I guess, caveat, whatever the term might be, that a property cannot go from C2 or M1 or R3 to a planned unit development status. Is that what you said, Jim? Okay. I
hope, but you said it much.
Well, it's something that has been, I've talked about this on several occasions, and it seemed like no one really knew what you were talking about. But we had to go back, some people will say lick the calf again and come back in, because this is the first time we've had a planned unit development. We've had a thing called a depression, or a recession, I think, is a depression in Pickens County from 2006 until now. And so we have gentlemen who are willing to invest in Jasper, Georgia, and Pickens County, they're interested in the term PUD. Now, with that, I'm done again.
All right. The first two items on the agenda are related to the Gateway project. The second two related to a project at Piedmont Hospital. Just to clarify where we are on each of these.
Okay, and I believe you mentioned as A, the requested change zoning from parcel. And this is just a step process, backing up what we just discussed.
Exactly.
With that, council, or Jim, would you like to ask the council to entertain a motion?
I'd like for council to consider a motion for each of these four items. And I think they probably need to be done one at a time.
Do A first.
Yeah, let's do A first, one at a time.
Okay, it says request zoning change for that parcel referred to, Lisa, you have it, 053D 079002 C2 commercial to R8. Give us a little example for the record and for the public where this property is.
This is the Gateway project at 108 and 53, near 108 and 53.
JR's property.
JR's property.
Okay, and with this, they'll be able to move forward with the process.
Yes, move forward to the process, and what will happen if both items are approved, it goes to the building inspector and city manager for consideration and recommendation to council.
Okay. We entertain a motion. Item A.
So,
Got a motion to approve. Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Any further discussion? Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands. Thank you, Councilman. Item B.
Item B will be allowing it to be reviewed as a planned unit development,
Okay,
same piece of property.
And it's read, request for a planning unit development, PUD, on parcel 053D 079002. Would entertain a motion. Got a motion to approve?
second.
Motion second, discussion. Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands. Thank you. Unanimous. Item C.
Item C is for the second parcel. This is what we call the Piedmont, or now we're calling the Piedmont Mountainside project. I'm sure that the developer has another name that he would rather I use, but that's for your all's information, it is around the hospital.
Okay, so
The first item would be changing it again from a commercial status to RA.
same procedure as before, but this request to change zoning for parcel 042-012-001 from C2, general commercial, to RA, residential agriculture. Would entertain a motion. Got a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know that the council has received any kind of presentation on this property. We may have, but I forget, I think we may have a guest here who has something to show us on this.
Okay, we were going to ask for that, but that'd be a good time to do that. Would you like to introduce yourself? If you'll come up before the camera and tell us what's going to happen at the hospital.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Thank you for letting me speak this evening. My name is Neil Hughes, and I'm president of Southeast Investment Realty out of Atlanta, Georgia. Let's see if I can put this together. They say an 8-year-old can do it, but I don't have one available, so I'm gonna try myself. And my background is in the development of large mixed-use parcels and developing them as live, work, and play communities. And this is, I don't know if everybody can see it.
I'm gonna have him bring it to you.
Let's move.
That's yours.
And I
I don't
have,
mind.
Come right here if you like.
I can see. I get, well,
you're
Hang in
familiar
front of you.
with the hospital right here. And this is the current Mountainside Piedmont Hospital. This is the green space behind the hospital. And we're developing a project, and we've named it Piedmont Village. And the head of cardiology over there said, let's get behind this or they may name it Northside Village. And so very excited. The healthcare industry in America is the fastest growing part of our economy. And there's several of these projects that I'm doing, these village type projects, I really like to locate around major healthcare for a lot of reasons. We have a lot of aging demographics like myself, and they just don't have the housing for them. And so there's a lot of reasons why I thought this made a lot of sense. And as your city logo states, you're the first mountainside city. And I like to do projects that anticipate where growth's going to go and then develop what I call an anchor project that's kind of like the spark that brings that growth in this direction. Cherokee County in the last few years has been the fastest growing per capita of any county. So you can see the growth wave that everyone's talked about with Jasper is right at your doorstep right now. And how you develop and how you establish the future for this community is really based on the decisions you all are making now. So the community your grandkids are going to live in really has a lot to do with the foresight that you all are putting down with planned unit developments and how they're going to generate tax revenues and what the lifestyle is going to be, how you address housing for the elderly. The average age in Pickens County over 65 years of age is 20%. In the 11 county North Georgia area to the Tennessee border, there's 160,000 residents. 20% of those are over the age of 65. The national average is 13%. So you really have a lot of what we call aging in place where people just don't have an option. There may be widowed women that are in their 80s that don't want to leave here, but they don't have an alternative. So they stay in housing and they risk falls. There's just a whole lot of reasons why that's a big component of what we're doing. To kind of give you an overview, these are the existing 3 medical buildings. This is the existing Piedmont Hospital. As you're probably familiar with, Piedmont has been expanding their cardiology, their cancer care, and they're really busting at the seams because they're feeding everything from the North Georgia border down. When I drive through that street and I look at those cars, you see all of those county license plates from all these counties, North Blue Ridge and all these other counties. They're all coming to this location. So what we're going to do, this is the boulevard that exists today to the existing apartment complex. This is going to be the Village Green. So the idea is that there's a heart of the community that we're developing, and this gives a green space, a place for people to congregate. This will be retail buildings. This concept is called Restaurant Row. So we designed the restaurants to be lakefront, and I know when anybody locally looks at that, they go, what lakefront? What we found out was that when they built 515, they had knocked down the intake because it was flooding and the contractor just went and knocked it down. And we pulled the old permit for those core lakes. There's 21 core lakes in North Georgia that are tied to this that Limestone Authority is over. We met with the Limestone Authority people and they're in violation of their own permit. So there's about a 15-foot inlet that's supposed to be there, and when that gets put back in, that actually will fill that, not entirely, but it will fill that reservoir back up again. And the reason for this, it was silt control, and without that, it means the silt that's accumulating is going straight down the creek, and it's affecting the bed for the fish to reproduce in, and so on and so forth. So we're looking at, we've already investigated bringing that water feature back. We've designed an amphitheater that will sit over the lake, so we'll have events, music events, they can have weddings, all kinds of things. That's community use. There'll be a 10-foot sidewalk that'll go through the entire property, so people can take their golf carts, or people from the hospital can go to the different facilities. These are 2 hotel sites. These are left for future development, and that could be an expansion of the hospital, it could be high-end retail. We haven't designated that use per se. This is the first section that we're going to be developing. This section here is for expansion for office medical. Whenever you find a large regional medical hospital, just like here, you watch as it grows and expands. So we anticipate there'll be a demand for that, and we want to accommodate that in this location. This is our senior community. So the idea is that they can age in place transitionally. To begin with, these will be a townhome cottage styled home. They'll have 2-car garages, they're masters on the first floor. It'll be for sale homes, and they're age restricted 55 and over. This next section is going to be independent living. So that'll be multi-story. It's still for people with mobility. It's not assisted living, but it's got a lot of the amenities that, like dining facilities and things of that nature. So it's certainly a lot less maintenance. And then this is assisted living. So the sections that we see starting first is we have a company out of Woodstock called Piedmont Residential, which is a great company. I've known them for since they were established. And they have a very successful product addressing this aged demographic. They're finishing a project in Canton directly behind the Walmart. And they're now nearly sold out, so they're looking for the next location. The transition is great for us because they still have models and they still have product that people can see while we're ready to build this. So we have an agreement with them to develop these 72 home sites for them in the first phase of development. We've also designed the next section for future expansion of that product as well. So we anticipate that this will be our first section, and we're already working on the engineering, the permitting, and all that for that section. We're in discussions right now for the assisted living. We've already identified an operator that's an established operator, very well known, great product. So these we see as the first 2 elements to really kick off the project. We have a number of tenants that have already showed an interest in going into the retail around the town square. We've had discussions with Piedmont Hospital about providing some office medical second story on the town square. So we put a lot of homework, a lot of thought into it. The design team that I work with is Wakefield Beasley, and you may be familiar with Avalon, the big project in Alpharetta. I've known and worked with them for over 20 years, and they are the preeminent design company in the United States for these kind of projects. And I found if you want to put a great project together, don't skimp on that part of the process. And they are literally the best in the industry. Mike McDonald, their lead designer, he and I worked together on projects for nearly 2 decades, so we they have a tendency to put a lot of stuff in, you got to balance it. It's just a great working cooperative we have with them. So I think it's an exciting opportunity. I believe that it will set the tone for future development coming up the 515 corridor. I've got to hand it to Gary Copeland that there is a tendency for people in more rural areas when they have land to take the strip center, take the tattoo parlor, to take any comer. And Gary realized he had something very unique around the hospital and was determined that this was going to be a legacy, and he wanted to do it right. So I take a great deal of pride to be associated with him and what he's doing, and he's turned down so many offers on this property because he just felt like it wasn't gonna be the right fit and the right match for what he's trying to do. When I brought this concept to him, he got very excited about it, and we're more concerned about doing it right than doing it quickly. We've turned away people that are senior operators that are really, building cinder block warehouses, and that's just not the image that we want to project, and we feel like this is going to set the tone for what we're doing. So we're excited about it. We think it's going to be a great addition to the community, and be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Council?
So I'm very excited about this property. I used to own some of that land and made my living over there. And so for a long time, I've been excited about seeing that property developed. Gary and I have a long-standing relationship, and like a lot of relationships in life, it changes over time, but at the same time, I'm very excited for the project. I'm going to say something. I'm probably going to be accused of trying to hold things back, and I want to be very clear. That's not at all what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
But I've studied this plan pretty extensively, and I'm assuming it's a schematic because I've also studied the PUD ordinance, and I have some concerns about this design as it fits into that ordinance. And so I want to make sure that moving forward, we either hold to the ordinance or we change it. So we don't want to get in another scenario where we have to slow you down or slow us down. So I'm asking you to, and I'm glad to interact with you in any way, shape, or form to make sure that you said some things that I believe to be true. Gary likes to do things right,
Yep.
and that's what we want to do moving forward in Pickens County. Not reflecting on the past, we want to do things, take our time, and do them right. I think the Veterans Memorial is an example of one of the wins that we've had recently. I'm excited about the Gateway project and also this project. So that's my only comments. So.
And the fact that your county is the largest veteran population per capita, I mean, you have a draw, and we were dealing with some of the fundraisers with Piedmont Hospital, and one of the gals, the older lady, Martha, I think was her name, lived in Big Canoe, and she was such a proponent of the hospital in this community, but she had to find assisted living and independent living and had to leave Pickens County. And there's people like that that are so immersed and tied to your community, there's just not a lot of options for them. And a lot of people I talk to in the assisted living field, they look at your demographics and they say, well, you only have X amount of people here. And I say, that's really a misnomer, because this hospital services a population of 160,000 people. So I think the depth of the market is far greater because it's a larger geographic area. And I think that's just going to continue to expand as you bring more services and entertainment and dining and that type of thing. You'll draw more people here.
What's the timeline on a project of this size that you've done before? From the start to the time you can complete it, what's the timeline on it?
I would say realistically, to absorb all of this, you're probably in excess of 7 years. Realistically, if I'm a more urban location, I'm doing a large project in Cincinnati, Ohio right now that's in a kind of Alpharetta area. I anticipate the build out of that to be in the 4-year to 5-year range. And then, as the mayor described, we went through our Great Recession. God forbid we have another one of those, because it just takes everything and throws the brakes on it, and we got put on a 10-year hold on the housing industry. It took quite some time to recover from.
How about the traffic? How do you think that many houses as it is now with the apartments being like that? That's a pretty dangerous intersection right there. How do you plan to handle traffic?
Well, there's a few things we'll be doing. There'll be an exit off of Zion Church Road, which is something on a project of this scale. I've done a lot of larger projects, and we have to get into these regional traffic impact studies. So one of the first things we did is look at bringing that relief back here. The other thing is, when you're dealing with particularly assisted living, independent living, senior living, you're not getting commuters that are getting out at 8 and coming back at 5. They're really not on that type of schedule, so they're not loading up that intersection at that same time frame. So there's a lot of different patterns as far as the traffic patterns are concerned.
Questions, council? Being none, we entertain a motion.
I'd like to move that we request a change zoning for parcel 042012001 from C2 to RA for the village, Piedmont Village project.
Second,
Second motion.
Tony Fountain, second the motion. Discussion? Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands. Thank you, council.
Thank you, gentlemen. Greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Item D, Jim? Sonny, who else?
As in the prior partial, now once it's approved to be rezoned from commercial to RA, I would like for council to consider allowing this to be used as a PUD. Now, and just as a note, I have had discussions with Sonny and the building department. Neither Sonny nor I have done a review of projects like this. Mike Costanza was the last one to review a PUD. So my intent is to talk to Mike and see if he would be willing to work with us and give certainly Sonny and me some additional comfort in it, and I hope it would give you all additional comfort also on that review.
Okay, so item D is request for a planning and development on parcel 042012001. Entertain a motion? Got a motion?
Second.
Motion second, discussion? Being none, all in favor, vote by show of hands. Thank you, council. Being no other business, entertain a motion to adjourn.